Hey everyone, it's Courtney and I'm back for another project-based tutorial kind of vlog. This one is also going to be working with some granny squares. So I'd like to shout out to the kind person who commented on our last video that had a tutorial element to it and suggested more of this content. This one is for you. Before beginning this tutorial, please be advised that this tutorial does use techniques for both knitting and crochet. I'm so sorry, I really wanted to keep it just crochet for my crochet viewers, but I had to throw in a little knit in there as well. So before you start, just be prepared to have your scissors, your tapestry needle, so your yarn needle, your crochet hook, and also your double pointed needles or DP ends to knit part of this. And the knitting needles should correspond to the same millimeter size as the crochet hook. Again, I'm so sorry. I really wanted to keep this mostly crochet. Okay friends, I've gathered some scraps. I don't have a ton of acrylic yarn scraps, but I did want to make use of a few that I have. So I've got my smaller scraps right here. I also grabbed a few other acrylic skeins. Usually I try to put my colors in rainbow order, especially if I'm working with scraps. I actually really like the order that it is in right now, kind of just naturally. Like maybe we start with this one and then...
Editing Courtney here. I'd just like to say I did change these colors around.
Okay friends, let's get started on our fingerless mitts.
To start these mitts, I'm just going to make 4 solid granny squares, and then we'll build on the ribbing for the cuff and the thumb hole of the fingerless mitts. To start a solid granny square, I just start off with a magic ring and then I chain 5. This chain 5 actually counts as your first double crochet stitch as well as your first chain 2 space. If you need a more in-depth tutorial on crocheting a solid granny square, I'm going to link a free YouTube tutorial by Bee Hooked Crochet in the description below. Make your 4 granny squares, and if you'd like to follow along with my scrappy granny square idea, you can use a different color for every row. For my granny squares, I think I'm going to go for 7 rounds, each with a different color. And if you would like to shorten the length of your fingerless mitts, you can use less rounds. And if you'd like to enlarge the size of your fingerless mitts, you can simply crochet more rounds.
I was able to make 2 full rounds with my smallest scrap, which was a beautiful yellow that I think I purchased at Michael's. And I do have 4 squares to make, so I'm probably going to substitute that yellow with a different yarn on my next 2 squares. A really big error that I made earlier, which I will put some text up on the screen so that at least if you're watching the video and not just listening, you can see that I'm acknowledging my error as I'm saying it. A 7 round granny square would be way too large for mitts my size, so I've shortened my granny squares to 4 rounds each.
As you're making your mitts, you might find that 5 rounds is more appropriate. Always just hold them up to your body part. Whatever you're making for yourself, you can always just hold it up to the body part that you're making it for and check the fit. If you're making it for someone else, that's where we might have to do a bit of guesswork. You might be able to find some standard sizes online. I just finished my first 2 granny squares and now I'll make the next 2. As I'm seaming them together, I'm going to put one of each of these with one of each of the ones I make next so that I can have 2 identical mitts. As you can see, I think that if I had 1 square on the other side of this hand, they would meet together perfectly. Okay friends, I have completed all 4 of my 4 round granny squares. The only thing left is to weave in these few ends on each square that I was not able to crochet over. Now that I'm getting all those ends woven in, it will soon be time to do the side seams. So we're going to be seaming 2 squares at a time along the sides.
For this part, I'm just going to take 1 square with this color scheme and 1 square with this color scheme and put them wrong sides together. So the wrong side is the side on which we wove in the ends. Put them wrong sides together like this. And the first seam that I'm going to make is just a straight line along one side. I'm going to seam them together by doing a slip stitch through the back loops.
This part I'm speeding up because I already explained what I was going to do, which is just to join one side with a slip stitch through the back loops. One thing I will mention is that I decided to use a purple yarn instead of the teal that I made my last round in, just to add a bit of interest. I get bored sometimes, so I want to spice things up. Next, what I decided to do is just do a single crochet border around the top edge of both of these granny squares. So without breaking my yarn, I'm just going to continue using that purple yarn to put a single crochet in each stitch, and I actually did 2 single crochets in the corners. And I'm going to go around the top of both of these granny squares. And this will create like a nice finish around the top part of our fingerless mitt. I've been playing with the idea of maybe making them convertible mitts. We'll see. We'll see if that's going to happen. But if I decide to leave it off here, at least we have a nice finished top part for a good fingerless mitt. And that's the fun of getting to create this project with me, that you all get to join me along this journey. There you have it. What we are going to do now is seam along the bottom about a third of the stitches, leave an opening, perhaps about 4 or 5 stitches for the thumb, and then seam along the rest. Actually, before doing the second side seam, it feels right to go ahead and add a simple single crochet border around the bottom portion of our mitt as well. So I've done that. Let's go ahead and try it on.
I probably made mention of adding like a ribbed cuff to this mitt, and
I no longer think that is necessary.
actually, after trying on this mitt, it seems like a good size.
So once again, I'm kind of just trying to show you where I'm going to start and end the hole for the thumb. And I'm going to speed the video up as I do that seam that I've already explained that we're going to do. We're just going to do a slip stitch through the back loops up about 1/3 of the way of the mitt. And then I went ahead and cut my yarn. And I'm just going to skip about 5 stitches and seam up the rest of this side of the mitt. And once I've seamed up the rest of this side of the mitt, I'm going to add the thumb hole. To do that, I'm going to join my purple yarn at a stitch near the base of the thumb hole. I think I joined with a slip stitch and a chain 1. And now I'm just going to single crochet into each of these stitches, going around both sides of the opening that we made when we skipped those 5 stitches. When we skipped those 5 stitches on both granny squares. Now I'm going to simply go around 3 times. And now that I've completed the thumb hole, I'm going to slip stitch to the first stitch of the next round. Here we have our finished thumb hole, although the ends are not woven in yet. Now I'm going to go ahead and try on our first mitt, as it might be complete, although the ends have not been woven in. I don't know, everybody. I'm a bit worried that this mitt is not complete just yet.
In retrospect, if I wanted to finish my mittens right here. It might have been a better idea to add the thumb hole more in the middle with the granny square, like flush with the beginning rounds. However, I did not do that, and it does look like this pair of mittens could benefit from a little bit of ribbing. So that's why I brought out my size 7 double pointed knitting needles, and I'm going to add a little, not a brim, that's what you call it on a hat, but a little ribbing around the cuff of these mitts.
I'm going to take out my trusty US size 7 double pointed knitting needles from their lovely Ziploc bag that I have been using to store them in. Just going to slide the slip knot onto the knitting needle. And now the goal is to pick up and knit a stitch for every crochet stitch along the bottom hem, the bottom end of the mitt that we made.
A stitch marker to mark my beginning of round, and then I'm going to knit 2, purl 2 around until I have what I think is a good cuff length.
I knit this 2x2 ribbing for about 2.5 inches, and now I just have to weave in the ends, and then I'll get started doing the same thing with the other mitts. As we are getting ready for bed, I got the ends woven in. Good morning, good morning. It is day 2 of the vlog, and now I am getting ready to start seaming together the first side of our second mitt. I'm going to use the same joining technique, a slip stitch through the back loops. I'm just kind of trucking along here. This time around, I was more careful to crochet over my ends as I was joining the different aspects of the mitts. But I did still have just a couple to weave in. Yes, everyone, mitts are complete. And if you've been following along with this, I hope that you are happy with your finished mitts as well. Thanks for joining me on this journey, the journey of the mitts.